Hello, this is a tutorial on using StormCAD. This is on a lesson that I put together for your homework, giving you step-by-step instructions how to solve the problems. And here we have the auto design feature, but in there we're going to also see how to go ahead and use the other tools that are in StormCAD. So I'm just going to go through part A over here. And here are some of the items that we're going to be looking at is the catch basin, the catchment and outfall information, rainfall data, the design constraints. We're going to be putting together a schematic diagram that looks like this. So I'm going to start StormCAD, and we're going to create a new hydraulic model. What I'm going to do is, instead of calling it untitled, I'm going to call it something different. So I'm going to come over here and call it 2018 tutorial. And you see I now have that title up over here. What I'm going to do now is set some of the basic hydraulic model properties. So I come over here to File, and what I'm looking for is the hydraulic model properties, and title is tutorial for homework. You can call it what you like. Engineer, I'm going to call the engineer as being me, and company as Gateway. What I'm going to do now is make sure that we have the Manning's equation set as the method of calculating the friction losses over here, the flow. So what I'm going to do is come over here to Analysis and the Compute Center, and down over here I have the information. You can see the gravity hydraulics says gravity friction method Manning's, so we're going to be okay with that. The overall project data can be set by going to the Tools menu over here, and then we're going to go down to Options, and we have a variety of options over here that we can pick. The first one that we're going to pick is under Drawing, and rather than have it scaled, we want to have it schematic. Next, we're going to look at the units. We want to have metric units, and I've been using this, so I already have it selected as the SI, System International. What I'm also going to look at doing is resetting the defaults. I want to have all my defaults being in SI units. I already had that as selected as my default, but you can see all the different units that we're going to be using here. So we finished selecting all our information over here on the options, so I click OK. And we're now going to begin laying out our system. So over here is for when I select things. This one is going to be where I can do my layout. So I'm going to first pick Conduit. Then I do a right click. And what I want to do is not have a conduit, or, well, sorry, not a manhole. So I'm going to come over here and click on a catch basin. And then I can lay these out. So I go catch basin 1, catch basin 2, catch basin 3, and now I'm going to go to an outfall. So I do a right click again, click on outfall. I can pick my outfall. I do a right click again, and now I'm done because I've finished laying out my system. Next, I'm going to draw my catchments where I collect my water that's going to go into this storm sewer system. So first off, I'm going to be right in the middle of Catch Basin 1. I hit CTRL, then I click on my mouse, and I'm beginning to expand my pentagon over here. And so I have 1. I repeat the process, hit CTRL, hit 2, and then same thing with 3. And now I got my catchments. Now in here you notice that all of mine were labeled 1, 2, 3, catchment 1, 2, and 3. If I made a mistake and I wanted to start all back over again, I come over here to Tools, Options, and then I come over here to Labeling. And if I wanted to, on my labeling, I can go ahead and reset it if I desire to by coming over here. And that'll take everything back down to 0. But you see over here, I've got my conduits are starting. The next one is 4, catch basin is 4, because I've already selected those in the drawing that I have right now. So I've finished putting my layout together, and I can click out of this, click OK. So in this whole assignment, there's going to be 2 types of calculations you can perform. In part A, which I'm covering right now, we're going to be using the design feature for the conduits. In parts B and C, you're going to be using the analysis. But over here, I'm going to go ahead and set some of the calculation options. So I come over here to analysis, my calculation options, and I'm going to do a new calculation. So if I hover over this one should come up with saying new. Then I click on this one over here. I now have a new solver that's in here, but I want to call it something different than that. I'm going to call it Design Calc. So I come over here and click over here, and now I can type in Design Calcs and hit enter. But I also want to do a little bit later, this is not part of this tutorial, but is look at analysis. So I'm going to come over here and also click new, and I'm going to rename it So now I have my analysis calcs also in here as some of my options. If I double click on my design calcs over here, I open up an options window over here, and I'm going to set some of the parameters for the problem solver, the design calcs. The main thing I want to do is come over here and where it says calculation type analysis. Well, this is the one I actually want to do for design. So I click over here in the calculation type, and instead of analysis, I want to go for design, and now I've changed it. Now the tutorial instructions tell you that you can go ahead and close this out and then click on other items over here. But actually on this one over here, if you have this little down arrow, you can go and toggle between different things. But I'm going to come over here and double click on my analysis calcs. So there's my label, says analysis calc. I just want to confirm that, yes, indeed, this is for analysis. So at this point, I should be ready to go on my calculation options. So I can close this window over here. I no longer need that. I'm going to close this. And what I'm going to do now is begin getting my conduit, my pipe parameters specified. So come over here to components. And then I want to come over here to Conduit Catalog. And I now have the catalog window open. And what I'm looking for is the synchronization options. So over here is new, and there's my synchronization options. And what I want to do is I want to import from the library. So there's my Conduit catalogs, and I have Conduit library, and I have Conduit library in metric. So we're going to be doing our stuff in metric. So I'm just going to select everything over here, and it'll give me box, conduit, circles, ellipses, pipe arcs, the whole thing. And if I select, it's now importing all that information. Now that all that information has been imported, we can get out of this, and what we're going to do is now start entering some of our data. So we're going to come over here to the components information, and on the pull down menu we're going to select storm data, and we're going to have user information that we're going to go ahead and put in. So I'm going to click over here, user IDF table. So I need a new table over here. Here's the user defined IDF table, and now I have all my information. The information I'm going to put in here comes from the problem that I gave you. So I'm coming over here, and if I go back up to the top, here's my rainfall data. I have durations of 5, 10, 15, 30, and 60 minutes. I have 5, 10, and 25-year storm. And here's the data that I need to put in order to complete that table. This is going to set how much water is going to be flowing through the storm sewer system. So now that I've got that explanation for you, coming over to here, and we're going to begin populating this over here. So we're adding return periods. So the first one is 5 years. Going to add another one. My next return period is 10 years. And then my final one I'm going to add is 25 years. And now I've done putting that in. Now what I need to do is specify the duration. So here I'm putting in adding a duration, and my duration is in hours. I'm going to cancel that because I'm going to take and select my units. I don't want to have it in hours. I want to have my duration in minutes. So I click OK, and now it's changed my duration in minutes. I can come over here and add a duration. So my duration first off is going to be 5 minutes. I'm going to add another one, which is 10 minutes. Adding another duration of 15 minutes. Adding in duration of 30. And then my last one is going to be an hour or 60 minutes. So now I'm going to begin populating all this with the chart that I had showed you before. So my first one is going to be 165 millimeters in an hour. Next one is going to be 142, and then 123, then 91, and then finally over here is 61. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish populating all this. Oops, that one should be 181, 156, 135, 103, then 70, and for my 25-year storm, it's 205, 178, 154, 120, and then finally it's 80. Now that I've got that done, I can close this out. I've entered all my data in. And the next thing I'm going to do is look at my catchment properties. So I can double click on catchment 1, but I need to come over here. Now you notice over here is that I'm clicking outside, because if I do the little square, it's going to give me the catch basin. Over here is going to give me the catchment. So if I double click on that, now I have my properties for my catchment CM1. And like I mentioned previously, that if you want to see the other items on here, instead of having to close them out each one or click on them, you can just come down over here with this little drop down arrow. So now what I'm looking for is the user defined area. Let's see over here. It's right over here. So this is my total area. And for the first one, it's going to be 0.34. Next thing I'm going to be looking for is the runoff method down over here. So I already have it selected as the rational method. Now if I come over here to area defined by, and I have a single area, and now I have to pick up the ellipse over here where I have runoff coefficient. And what I'm going to do is now put in the information that is in the document I gave you on all the different catchments and all the other information. So I come up over here, you see that for Basin Catchment 1 that I have a 0.34, which you add the 0.16 and the 0.18 together. I have a time of concentration of 5 minutes. The impervious area is 47%. The pervious area is 53%. So these are the items that I'm going to be putting in there. So I come back over here to StormCAD. So the first thing I'm going to enter in is I have my impervious area, which is 47%. It's going to automatically calculate that. So this is going to be where I have impervious. And what I now need to give it is a runoff coefficient. So the impervious area is going to be 0.9. Over here is going to be my second area, which is my pervious area. So this is going to be where I have my pervious, have grass and other things that allow the rainwater to percolate in. And here I'm going to have it as 0.3. So now I have specified the sub areas for catchment number 1. So I can click OK. There we go. Now I want to come over here to catchment 2, and I'm going to do the same thing and go through catchment 2 and catchment 3. So for catchment number 2, what I have is a different area, and I wanted to define that. So it's going to be 0.28. And then I'm going to come down over here. I already have the rational method already selected. My runoff coefficient, which is going to be in proportion to the areas that I select. Again, I picked my ellipse. And what I want is to have my impervious area as being 46.4%. And it begins to populate that. And now I'm going to just enter it in that I have the impervious area. My coefficient is going to be 0.9. The other portion of this is going to be 53.6% of grass and such that are pervious. And this one is going to be 0.3. And now I have that information for catchment 2. And what I want to do now is come over here to catchment number 3. And I'm going to do the same things over here that I did for the previous 2. My total area over here is 0.3, and I'm going to come down over here and look at my time of concentration, how to calculate it, which is up over here. Oops. Picked the wrong one. So over here, I'm going to catchment 3, which is 56.7% impervious with a coefficient of 0.9. My remaining pervious area is 43.3%. With a coefficient of 0.3. What I'm going to do now is specify some of the other properties for my catchments. So over here it has the time of concentration, and I'm going to actually put that in. It's going to be 6 minutes or 1/10 of an hour. What I also need to do is specify the outflow element, which is I have the catchment. This is what is taking the water and getting it into the storm sewer system. So I'm going to select the element, and since this is catchment number 3, I have catch basin number 3. I click on that, and now it has specified that. I'm coming back over here to catchment number 2, and what I need to do again is put in my time of concentration, which is going to be 5 minutes. And I think I made an error on number 3. I put that in as a fraction of an hour. I'm going to go back and change that one. So yep, this is supposed to be in minutes. I've got to change that. Going back to catchment number 2. And now what I need to do is pick out the outflow element. And I'm selecting it. And catchment number 2. Now you notice that I'm picking right out in the middle of that square. So I have catch basin number 2 linked up with it. And now I'm coming back over here to catchment number 1, and I'm doing the same thing. I have a time of concentration I need of 5 minutes. And what I'm going to do is my outflow element is going to be catch basin number 1. And now I have that selected for it, so I should be pretty much done with specifying my catchments. So what I'm going to do now is I want to come over and start picking up the properties for my catch basins. Over here's catch basin 1, and now you see I'm over here with it. And what I need to do now is I want to design the structure elevation. I'm going to specify that, so I come over here and I'm going to make this false. And the opening, I'm going to also say that's false. Next, I'm coming over to inlet type, and over here I'm going to come over to percent capture, and what I'm specifying percent capture is 100%, so that's good. What I want to do next is look at the inlet location. I'm not going to have it on grade. I'm actually going to have it in sag. So now what I'm looking for is the ground elevation to put it in. So I'm going to put this in, and I want to have if I go back to my table, it's 264.8. So let's put that in, but if you want to see where that came from, where's my table at? Here we go, 264.8. So this is all the data that I've been putting in. So I'm going back to my StormCAD. And now I want to come with my head loss method. I don't want it to be absolute. I want it to have a standard method. You see here we have the Federal Highway Administration. They're circular over here on how to go ahead and figure out the losses if we want to do that. But I'm just going to pick standard method. And over here is going to be 0.5. Then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing for the other catch basins. So I need catch basin number 2. So for catch basin number 2, what I have to do is look at the elevation and put that data in also. The elevation I need to put in here is 264.5. And I'm coming down here to inlet type is percent capture and 100%. And I'm looking for the method. So head loss method. There we go. Instead of absolute, I need to make it standard. And then 0.5. And now I come over here to look for catch basin number 3 and do the same thing. That my inlet type going to be percent capture, 100% is fine. Looking for head loss method and not having it being absolute, but standard. And then 0.5. And I now should have all my stuff taken care of for my catch basins. So now what I need to do is specify the stuff for my outfall. So I'm coming over here to outfall. And now I have that information pulled up where I can go ahead and begin entering information there. And now what I'm going to do is look at my boundary condition type. And what I want is user-defined tailwater. In my elevation here for my user-defined tailwater, to start off with, in the part A, the problem is 264.6. Oops, I screwed up. That's actually the elevation of the ground. What I need to put in here is 262.8 meters. And then what I do is, since the outfall is not included in design calculations, I want to set the design structure elevation to false. So I'm going to come down over here to design structure elevation, and I'm making that false. Now I'm coming over to do some additional work on the conduits. So I have conduit number 1. So now I have all the information I need to specify with conduit number 1. So design conduit and the stop invert. Yes, I'm going to be doing both those. I have to set those to true. They're already set as true. Design conduit and the stop invert. And I do have a user-defined length of 20 meters. I'm going to put that in here. Now I just put in the length of conduit number 1 because I had a schematic rather than the specifying it as taken from the drawing. So what I'm going to do next is now specify the conduit size. So over here, as I have user-defined conduit, I actually want to do it from the Conduit Catalog, and conduit class is going to be circle concrete. My size, now this is going to be, it's the starting point for the program in order to look at the sizing of the pipe. Since we're doing design, it's going to start off at 200 millimeters. So I'm going to do now is come over here to conduit number 2. And I've got to do the same type of thing. So I already have as design conduit is true, design stop invert is true. The length of this is also going to be 20 meters. And then come over here as I don't want to have the user-defined conduit. I want to come have all the information taken from the catalog. And over here again, as I want circular concrete, the size I'm going to start off with is 200 millimeters. That should take care of conduit number 2. Now conduit number 3 is going to be a little bit different, and that is a box structure. So we're going to again look at here's design conduit, design stop invert. Yes, those are both true. We want to come down over here and come over here from the catalog, and now instead of the circle, I want to have box concrete. And my size over here, I'm picking the minimum size. This is just the starting point again for the program. The other thing that I want to do is I need to specify the length. That on this is, I have it as 10 meters. I just want to make sure I did that for conduit number 2. Did I say that it was? Yep, there's 20 meters. So now I should have all of my conduits specified. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the design constraints from the components pull-down menu. I'm looking at first at the velocity. I already have my gravity pipe, my velocity, and what I want is 1 here and maximum of 3. What I'm going to do next is look at the cover, and what I want to do is I want to have a minimum cover of a meter. So I've got that in, and the maximum cover is not listed in the design constraints table. So non-constrained condition, I just need to put a large value in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this one in as 50. And now for the slope is that I'm going to have a minimum of 0.5% or 0.005 and a maximum of 10% or 0.1. So I have that all entered in. Now what I'm going to do is come over here to the node, click on that, and I want to set the pipe matching to inverts, which I apparently already have. I could have it to the crowns by matching the inverts, which is the bottom of the sewer. Now I'm going to click the inlet tab, and what I want to do over here is I want the maximum spread of 0.5 meter and depth of 0.1 meter. So maximum spread is going to be 0.5 meters. My maximum gutter depth is going to be 0.1. And the minimum efficiency on grade is going to be, 50%. So I'm all done specifying those. I can click close. Now if I've done everything right, I should be able to go ahead and start the business of running the model. So I'm going to open the Alternatives Manager window, which I get to by clicking Analysis and under Alternatives. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand my rainfall runoff. And I come over here and I double click on this. And what I have is I'm specifying what I'm going to do for the design, what storm event do I want to do it for, and over here I'm going to take the one for the 25-year storm, and now I can close that out, and I can come over here and close my Alternatives Manager. Next, I'm going to be looking at my scenario. I come over here and click on that, and I'm going to double click on my base case in order to open up the window over here. So I'm going to do is I want to change my calculation option to design calcs. So I'm coming down over here, and now I've got that specified. Now that I have that specified, I can get out of this window and get rid of my scenario. So now I'm ready to go ahead and run the model. Now StormCAD is going to ask if I want to save the design data as a new physical alternative, which would allow me to access the initial data and the final design within the same model. You can click yes or no over here. So over here is where I can click compute, and I'm just going to go ahead and click yes on this so that I can have my parameters if I want them. Click OK, and I have some errors I need to correct. So apparently I've done a few things that are a problem over here. I need to rectify those. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. Now, apparently I've made all these calculations and had a problem with catch basin number 2. So I'm going to open up that one and see what I did wrong. Apparently what I've done over here, whoops, messed that up, is I did not change this from on grade to in sag. So hopefully that will rectify the problems that I have over here. So I'm going to go ahead and run this again. And yes, I want to do that. And I still have some errors over here. Now that I've taken care of those items, I should be able to run my model And let's see if I get rid of most of my errors. I did get rid of most of them. And I got catch basin 2 and 3. Inlet type should be set to a catalog inlet. And apparently for conduit number 3, I have an adverse slope, which means that the ground elevations are incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and check on those. So first one is my conduit number 3. Did I put that in incorrectly? Let's come down here and take a look at some of the information. Let's take a look at my catch basins 2 and 3. And here it says should be inlet type should be set to a catalog inlet before the inlet's opening length can be specified. Let me go ahead and do catch basin number 2. Apparently doesn't like the inlet type that I specified, so I have over here is percent capture. Let's just see if redoing this is going to make it happier. And I do that for catch basin number 3. And let's see if that eliminates the errors. And I've gotten rid of all but 2 of them. And let's see if I can figure out, you'll be having some errors on data that you may not have remembered to put in. But over here, we're looking at solving the problems for inlet type should be set to a valid catalog inlet before the inlet's opening length will be designed. So let's see if we can figure out what that problem is. What I'm going to try doing over here instead of percent capture is just look at catalog inlet and inlet type. I don't have that. And just look at full capture because we had a 100% before, so that's catalog, catch basin number 2. I just did it for catch basin number 3. Let's run it and see if that resolves the problem. And it's still not liking it. Go down here to percent capture. Let's put in 100% again. And do that for catch basin number 2. Apparently we're still running into that error. So I'm going to do here is get a report generated. Catalog inlet. So what I may not have specified is the outflow elements. So I'm going to take a look at that. Let me go over to Catchment 2. And outflow element. Let's see if that's resolved the problem. And apparently not. So let me go back to catch basin number 1, which it apparently likes, to see what is different. And I think I found my problem is that these should all be set to false, which I forgot to do previously. So now I'm coming over here to catch basin 3, and this one should also be false and false. And that was my problem. What I had done is that had neglected to go back and change some of the original design constraints. When I did it first, it says user defined tailwater is ignored. It's because we need a minimum tailwater that will govern, but that's going to just be a warning, some information, but that is basically how you work through it. You will have some errors, but you're going to have to go back through all the information as you were given here initially and make sure that you followed all these. And what I had a problem with is that when I went and did some of the initial work on it is did not go ahead and make sure that I had set some of the design conditions correctly. But now that I've done that, when I come back over here and run the model, things all work out well. So that concludes the tutorial for it, and it was a good example of what you would expect is if you forget some things or don't specify some items over here is that you will then have some notifications you need to clear up. So hope that things go well. If you have any questions on the tutorial when you do it for your homework assignment, get in contact with me.